Hello, I'm Chris Wigglesworth from Nigeria. My special thanks goes to the RIU moderators, participants, attendees, speakers, and the co-founder Piyush Pandit, for giving me this special opportunity for the second time to speak on reduced inequality. Without much time wasting, I would love to quickly go into the teaching for today. Now, it's very paramount that we understand what is inequality. So, inequality in this research is the differences between an individual, a person, a group, a nation, either in terms of wealth, in terms of technological assessment, in terms of economic development. For instance, developed countries enjoyed most latest technology that the developed country enjoys the most latest technology that the undeveloped countries are yet to enjoy or to have access to. For instance, the humanoid today, that is the android human, which is the personal assistant to human, is being used and gotten access to in the developed nation. But here in the underdeveloped nation or the developing nation like Africa, we are unable to have access to this technology of the humanoid. And that is called the political goal of inequality. Why? Because the developed nation have wealth access to afford it, but the developing nation can't. Now, however, my case study is on the causes, effects, and solution of inequality. Now, what are the causes of inequality? Number one, political goals. Number two, exploitation of poor countries, especially Africa, by the developed nation. Number three, tax avoidance. Number four, lack of education. Very, very paramount here. The lack of education of the developing nation brings about inequality compared to the developed nation. The developing nation are, underserved and having access to quality education as the developed nation do. So the other causes of inequality is what? Lack of innovation and technology. As a matter of fact, the African nation, which is the developing nation, have less access to technology, innovation. All right, and that leads to inequality. Now, gender inequality. As a matter of fact, this is very, very paramount in certain African nations, especially Nigeria. Here in Nigeria, the men are believed to be the breadwinner, the decision maker, while the women are being deprived of their certain rights on, speaking and having decision on issues. So, for instance, the women are being deprived of their rights, and there is gender inequality. Insecurity regarding to property rights is another cause of inequality. Low investment incentive for fame, low living quality, regional factors, conflict, famine. As a matter of fact, conflict leads to inequality, whereby there's sessions of war in nations. For instance, Afghanistan's Russia in war, or other nations as such. All right. So famine as well leads to inequality. The developed nation had lower access to food supply. All right. Due to what? Poverty. Poverty leading to famine. So while the developed nation had access to, virtually better economy to afford enough food for themselves. Now, consumption behavior is another cause of inequality. Overconsumption of, goods and commodity in the developing nation leads to inequality of the developed nation over them. So, number 14 of causes of inequality is natural disaster. Natural disaster is another major cause of inequality. Now, can we now see more effects of inequality in the global world? Now, the effect of inequality, number one, is famine. Inequality leads to famine. However, this is lack of food, drought, and desertification. All right, so it leads to what? Famine. There is drought, lack of meal, lack of food in the developed nation. Number two, exploitation of the poor countries in terms of their natural resources, such as crude oil. In Africa, the developed nation, especially the European nations, exploit the Africans, and as well, other developed nations exploit the nation of Africa that has the oil, giving them, money in exchange for their oil. All right, so these are the effects of inequality. Gender deprivation, lack of access to quality education, health effects, poverty, starvation, bad working conditions. This all leads to the effects of inequality. Radical movements, jealousy. Yes, as a matter of fact, a nation that is being starved, that is, wallowing in poverty and being deprived of its rights will always take a radical action, which will be illicit in the law. All right, so drug abuse is another effect of inequality. The misuse of drug leads to this. Now, frustration. However, a nation that has been deprived and starved will always will always live in frustration. Now, let's consider important global inequality facts. Let's look at 3 aspects of this global fact, about 3 of them. Number 1, in 2018, the richest 26 people owned as much wealth as the 3.8 billion poorest people. Just imagine. Half of humanity lived off less. Half of humanity lived off less than $6 per day in 2018. Global wealth worldwide amounts to $361 trillion in 2019. There are only 47 million millionaires worldwide in 2019. The average wealth per capita amounts to $70,849 in 2019. This is amazing. Now, the average per capita amount to $70,849 in 2019. It is estimated that total global wealth increased to $459 trillion until 2024. 56% of the worldwide population owns wealth less than $10,000 in 2019. Now you can see this amazing result of inequality. Very, very, very of a bad effect. Now, less than 10% of the global population own more than $100,000 in wealth in 2019. The 10% richest people owns 84% of overall global wealth in 2019. And finally, the richest 10% of people owned around 45% of overall global wealth in 2019. Finally, in addition, the effect of inequality and the solution to reduce inequality, is access to education. And that is why IIU, International Internship University, has come to be established to create this awareness on the effects, causes of inequality and the procedure to reducing them or to solve them via education, via acquiring of proper and sound education, quality education, which IIU is established to give as its sustainable development goal. Now, I have come to the end of this teaching on reduced inequality, but I must thank IIU for giving me this global voice to speak on reduced inequality, especially the co-founder Piyush Pandit. Thank you very much. Because right now in Nigeria we are unable